My name is Shawn, and I'm here to talk about create-react-app. But first, I really want to start off with Amazon and Jeff Bezos, your friendly neighborhood independent bookseller. No, obviously, I'm talking about Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. And it's something that's core to his beliefs when he's running Amazon that he says, and I'm just going to read it out. It's probably a bad practice, don't do this, but he believes in it so strongly that I have to read it. It's impossible to imagine a future 10 years from now where a customer says, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish the prices were a little higher. It's impossible, right? So we know that the energy we put into Amazon today will still be paying out dividends for our customers. When something that you know is true, you can afford to put a lot of energy into it. And that's his assertion that customer experience can never be good enough. And my assertion is developer experience can never be good enough. If you take one thing away from this talk, it's that developer experience, DX, can never be good enough. What's that got to do with create-react-app? All right, let's actually get into it. I want to bring you back in time. And for those who are newer to React, I want to tell you about how it was before create-react-app. So first, I'm going to do a show of hands. So who in the audience has manually set up Webpack, Babel, and React? All right, about 70%. All right. Who has cloned someone else's boilerplate? All right. About 50%. And who has used create-react-app? Okay. Actually, there's some hands that are not up, so I'll say like 90%. And who would use create-react-app for their first project, like just when you're starting out a new project? All right. So yeah, okay, about 80% returners. And I used to believe in the boilerplate myself, so much so that my first project was called PACKAGE.JSON. This is the flow on the left where you can see how it works. Basically, you type in the dependencies that you want, and it would filter out from a whole list of boilerplates the exact boilerplate for you. And you would copy them and all that. I believed in it so much, I gave it a name. This is actually PACKAGE.JSON. He's a package delivery man. And his goal is to find the perfect boilerplate to give to Package Jane, his love interest. But really, and one thing I was innovating, which all that was thrown away. But I think the one good idea from this project, which persists, is the idea of cognitive load. And there is a ton of cognitive load that happens when you start a new project. There's dependencies, there's dev dependencies, there's peer dependencies, folder structure, config files, and then there's a whole question of, is this still maintained? Like, can I trust this thing, or do I have to keep it up to date? And that's not even an exhaustive list, right? I'm sure you can think of more. And that ties into a broader question of how it feels to learn JavaScript. If you've seen this viral essay, How It Feels to Learn JavaScript in 2016, he guides this JavaScript newbie through Vue, through React, TypeScript, Babel, Flow, NPM. It's actually kind of fun going through all those logos and seeing how many you can name. And this phenomenon has a name. It's called JavaScript fatigue, and people were really feeling it for React. Down here, this is one of the sort of core people in the React community saying too many newbies are getting overwhelmed by React's learning curve. Why? A lot of it has nothing to do with React. It even became a meme. People were tweeting out things like this. This is impossible to imagine in today's world. And people are retweeting it because there's some element of truth, right? Like there's always a little bit of truth in everything, and it hurts. So literally, people can put up their boilerplates, and it would get upvoted to the front of Hacker News and make entire careers. This is Max Stoiber's boilerplate called React Boilerplate. We're not known for our creative names, as you will see later. And literally encouraging boilerplate to the point where this is the package.json boilerplate. When you're scrolling through and you're importing this boilerplate, it's 300 lines. I have no idea what it does. It probably takes you as long to learn how to set this up as setting it up yourself, And a lot of it you're not going to need. So that's probably not the solution, but people are still doubling down on this. When React Boilerplate was put up on Hacker News, the first suggestion was, hey, there should be a boilerplate of the month. You think this is a joke. It's not a joke. This is how people seriously were like, yeah, things are moving so quickly. Whatever I used last month is out of date. So that's too much cognitive load to the point where it gave the impression that React was tied to all this stuff. This is someone on Twitter trying to set up a simple React app, but then he thinks he needs to figure out generator functions, Redux Saga, Webpack, and CSS modules. So that doesn't sound like a simple React app, but it's tied so much in the ecosystem to it that people thought it was the same thing. On the other side of the spectrum, React Docs, all they gave you was a starter pack. You don't see this on the docs now, but this is how it was back then. It was a big button, and it gave you, guess what, a zip file. You download the zip file, and guess what? More config, you actually have to create a hello world.html on it. It's not even complete. And there's a huge opportunity. So wherever there's opportunity, the React community will come in. And these are all the attempts at solving it in slightly different ways. There's NWB, there's RWB for React, there's React CLI, there's Budo, there's Prot, and then there's Enclave. We'll come back to Enclave in a second. So this problem is very much not solved. Here's another person trying to start React and joking like he's downloaded a Fortran starter pack. I don't know Fortran. It sounds like I don't want to know it. But the point is, boilerplates are ridiculous and have little to do with React. So how do you solve a problem like boilerplate? Here's Dan Abramov thinking and thinking and thinking. And obviously, the obvious solution to solving a React problem is to go to EMBER Camp. What? Yeah, he went to EMBER Camp, and he stole an idea for EMBER. EMBER CLI is really cool, he says. No config. React community could learn from this. EMBER devs are like, yeah, duh. Like, we've had this. Like, what's up? Like, why are we? Why is React more popular than us? Whatever. EMBER CLI had a good idea. We saw that he had a good idea. We took it and we combined it with some ideas from Enclave, and that's what Dan Abramov did. create-react-app was actually, most of it was written in a day. He had him working MVP, and a week later they published it. This is the blog post announcing it in July 2016, so not that long ago. But maybe the history is kind of lost on us, right? Here's the Hacker News announcement, and here's Facebook Live. They tried to actually do demos and launch things on Facebook Live. Remember when Facebook Live was a thing? No? Actually, remember when Facebook was a thing? Yeah, that was, historically, we used that. So typically, this is a terrible formula for success, right? Like, there are 14 competing boilerplates. This is ridiculous. We need one boilerplate that covers everyone's issues. And the result is there's 15 boilerplates. But actually, what happened was it worked. And there's something strange in there. So this is the chart of GitHub stars of all the other boilerplates, and then obviously the red line is create-react-app. I'm just going to say CRA from now on, by the way. CRA. So 11,000 stars in the first 3 months, and now it stands at 80,000 stars. So what happened? First of all, I want to make the point again that the developer experience cannot be good enough. So we want to talk a little bit about how it works and dive into the code. Obviously, you read the docs. But the funny thing about docs for big projects is they always tell you how to use it. They don't really tell you how it works. And if you look into the README, you get this little paragraph about how each of the packages in create-react-app work. And that's about it. And it's actually out of date. So obviously, you read the source code, right? It's so obvious. Even, I'm blanking on his name. Stevie Wonder can, I'm so sorry. I knew it when I put it in. Anyway, Stevie Wonder can put it in. But here, I've annotated the core parts of the packages that you want to pay attention to. First one is the one that gave you the name, create-react-app. That's a one-time CLI, command line install. You only install that one time, and you never touch it again, because it's hard to remind people to update their command line instances globally. And then the main meat of the package is React scripts, which has a bunch of scripts. It routes different scripts for initializing, starting, building, ejecting, and testing. There's the template, which is copied out, which is the stuff that you work with and make into your own app. And there's a Webpack config that Facebook maintains for you so that you don't have to deal with Webpack. And there's also other niceties like Babel preset React app, which is all the Babel configs that you don't have to worry about. And there's that JSX overlay that you like, which shows up in a nice way, in a nice little white screen. So let's talk about the installation. What actually happens is actually not that much. So we'll talk about the critical path for the CLI, the command line interface. When you type in npm install g, create-react-app, what actually happens is it just your node instance runs task cra.js, which basically copies over packages create-react-app, and you're done. So now you have access to this command line command called create-react-app. Then when you're initializing a new project, you just type create-react-app, whatever app name you have. It goes into command line create-react-app, which calls React scripts, and bin/reactscripts.js is a router. It routes all the different scripts. So there's init, there's build, there's whatever. But here we're initializing. And the initializing script basically goes into template and copies out everything in the template and then runs yarn install on it. That's it. That's create-react-app. And React scripts is the workhorse of create-react-app, right? It has all these other scripts, and basically all you do is you feed in flags to this command line, to this npm package, and it will run the associated commands for you. For example, here's what happens when you run npm start. It routes to bin React scripts again. It goes to which gets routed to script/start.js. It runs your app through webpack.config.dev.js. So that's the dev config of Webpack. Similarly, for building, you run npm run build, and it forwards it all the way to run the prod version of Webpack config. So all that is maintained for you by Facebook. So that's a very nice field. If this was another venue, we would walk through the code, but I don't have time for that today. I encourage you to, though. Here are 5 things I want to highlight for you, though. So here is the top part. This is the code for copying out the template in the init folder that we just walked through. And this is where they actually put in an error for if the template doesn't exist. Now, this actually doesn't make sense because the template actually is shipped together with React scripts. So you probably are never going to have an instance where there's a React script, but there's no template. But they put it in anyway, and that's the nice attention to detail for all the edge cases that might happen if things get corrupted or stuff gets changed around later on. Over here is that little nice warning. If you run an app in port 3000, this is too small for you to read. I'm just going to speak it out for you. If you run an app in port 3000 and you run another create-react app in the same port, it's going to tell you, hey, you're running an app here. Would you like to run it on a different port? That's, again, nice developer experience. You didn't have to code any of that. Here is the eject function, where you can actually mark code as dead code, which you want to remove when you eject or build things. Here's the React error overlay, which you already know because it pops up and shows you, the issues in the JSX, which are not the compiled versions of it. And here is Babel preset React app, which are all the Babel plugins, in particular the class properties and object rest spread, which are only in the proposal stage in TC39. But you get to use them as standard React defaults already. So again, DX can never be good enough. There are all these little tweaks that they're doing for you, and it's such a nice bundled experience. Now we talk about how it's managed. That's the last thing, and this is the easiest part to explain. There are so many packages. There are so many packages, and typically they'd be uploaded to separate repos, and you just manage each of them independently, and you push them to npm. But as a developer of a package of a library with multiple packages, it's hard to npm link them together when you're developing, and then make sure that the version numbers sync up when you actually push them. So what Lerna does is ask you to embrace the monolith and actually just publish everything in a giant monorepo. That's what Facebook is: 30,000 React components all in one repo on Facebook, and it works for them. It probably will work for you. Basically, if you use Lerna, well, here's what you do. You run Lerna publish. You select whether you want to bump the major, patch, or minor versions, and then it publishes everything, all the packages that need to be updated with the correct version number. That's about it. And it's really that small API that makes it such a pleasure to use. Basically, if you're using Lerna, you're basically SPACEX and landing different rockets separate at the same time. Again, a reminder that DX can never be good enough. That this is a tool for creating tools. So the last thing I wanted to try to do is copy it. So I think the best way to learn something is to try and clone it. And that's what I tried to do. So thinking about create-react-app, it's not perfect, right? What could be better? When I eject, I get this big, scary, I first get this question like, are you sure you want to eject? Well, I don't know, maybe not. But it shouldn't be such a big, life or death decision. I shouldn't be saddled with a whole bunch of dependencies out here when I eject from create-react-app. And when I install, this is Ryan Florence, creator of React Router, telling you to actually, there's a nice hack because it takes so long to install create-react-app that you can actually install you can pre-install create-react-app into a folder and then just copy the folder every single time. It was faster that way, and that's obviously not ideal. So around the same time this happened, Parcel came out. Parcel is a competitor to Webpack in that it's a faster bundler, and there's a bunch of other nice things. The main features are Parcel does multi-core processing, so it processes faster because it makes use of your multiple cores, whereas Webpack is single-threaded. And it's also zero config out of the box, whereas Webpack often has 500 lines of configuration. According to Parcel's own metrics, they are up to 10 times faster than Webpack. So I was like, okay, and I noticed that create-react-app is so tied to Webpack, right? Like that's part of the whole thing. When you eject, you're tied to Webpack. When you run things, you're tied to Webpack. And this thing on the right is that critical stage. So I need to make my own version of React scripts if I want to use React with Parcel. So how hard could it be? Literally a piece of cake. So just revisit the critical path. So what I did was I did lerna init. I made my own version of task.cra.js. I made my own version of create-react-app, the command line utility. Then I made my own version of React scripts with init, template, start, and my own version of Webpack. And then I hit learn and publish. This is my commit log from that day. It took about 6 hours. I'm not saying I'm amazing at it. I'm just saying this is that easy to do. And you can always see it on the GitHub if you want to follow along. I think it's a really good exercise to understand the tools that you're using. And rip and replace. It's not that hard. I just commented out all the Webpack bits and put in all the new parcel hotness, is what I call it. And I do understand there's a certain bit of irony here because I'm configuring something that's supposed to be zero config. And that's mostly, and the parcel guys know that, that's mostly to do with configuring the production settings that you want. So I did that for people who use create-react-app-parcel. And I announced it on Twitter. It got posted to Hacker News. Fun fact about getting to the front page, the top of Hacker News, there's a lot of bots these are all bots. They just post the title, like I don't know what's in it for them, but they have titles with all the exact same things. Yeah, it's just weird. And obviously because of the initials of create-react-app-parcel, I gave it the poop emoji. It's very friendly, very cute. Here's a demo of how you do it. You just run crap, and for example, I called it crap shoot. That's just fun. Like I think, I'm not saying that people should use this. I'm just saying that people should go through the exercise of building cloning your favorite tool and seeing how it works and just completely understanding it. Because if you can build it, you know it. So here's an example of me going into the source code, starting it up. I hate live coding, so I pre-record everything. Generally a good idea. And there's the running create-react-app-parcel. This is the new background for CRA version 2, by the way, so you're going to be getting this as well. And then here's an example of the dev build, of the build process, and it's done. So the build is very fast as well, and that just purely comes out of Parcel. And that's the demo. Again, DX can never be good enough. It's a sliding improvement. I don't expect anyone to use it, but it was a really good exercise, and people really welcome that. So what can we really learn from all this, right? Like I just got you through a whole history of stuff. Like, do you really need to know that? I think the thing that you take away is that there are two types of attitudes when it comes to dev tools. One is, this is more free software. Who wants that? Eternal cycle developer tool BS. And then there's the other reaction, which is, here when I announced create-react-app-parcel on my Twitter. Here's the current maintainer of create-react-app coming to my mentions and saying, hey, we're tied to Webpack right now, but we would look at Parcel if it improves things. Like, they are that positive. You can either say things are perfect, they'll never change, and don't change them, please, or like, let's talk about improving things for people. And just a reminder, here are all the reactions for when create-react-app first came out. Over here is Rachel Smith. She's the top. She's the front-end lead at CodePen. There's Wes Boss. There's this guy who's talking about the error message that we talked about, where if you run the same thing on the same port, it gives you the option to run on a different port instead of a weird error message. There's just all of this love for developer tools on the other side. And I think there's a general spectrum, and I was trying to chart it out in my graph, and I think it can be explained by this chart, which is charting developer experience versus a developer's experience. If you think about it, there's two meanings of that. So when you start out and you have no experience, you want more developer experience. And then when you get a little more experience and you know all your tools, you're like, all right, don't change anything because everything's perfect the way it is. You have zero desire for more developer experience. But then as you start building other stuff and having other concerns, you want that more developer experience again. And then when you start teaching, you really, really want developer experience. So if that chart looks familiar, it's very related to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Is the conclusion create-react-app? Maybe you shouldn't make a CLI to make CLIs. No, I'm not telling you to make CLIs. I'm just saying this is part of a spectrum that never ends. where create-react-app lies is probably some combination of generator and toolkit. And there's so much other things that we can start to think about to improve create-react-app. So to improve experience. So this is the homework I leave to you guys. If you want to check out my project, npm.im create-react-app-parcel, Sunil Pai in React Europe gave a really good talk about how we should all write less code and make things to write less code. Kent Dodds wrote a really good blog post about how toolkits are very similar to public transportation, and config all the things is like owning your own car versus having a bus. And Danny Brimov, obviously, for giving you the initial inspiration. So thank you. These the slides are here, and that's my Twitter. Thank you.